Hello everybody, welcome into the Rancho Kitchen. This is going to be kind of controversial today. One of the things that people have noted over the years in my many baking videos, particularly when it comes to bread, is the very high temperature that I bake my bread, at least at the beginning. And also the fact that I do a little something special when it comes to baking time. Let's go over a little bit of the theory for a second. I did prepare some dough today. It's been prepared, kneaded, risen, punched down, risen again, and now it is ready to be sheeted here on the pan that you can see behind me. And this is some of the theory of baking that's a little different than what you're accustomed to. Typically, you'll shape the bread and then bake it at 350 degrees for maybe 50 minutes. Well, I guess it was several years ago, I looked up some obscure things about making artisan loaves. And back in the day, they didn't have the control on ovens that they do today, and they just fired it up, heated up the bricks or whatever, the fire brick, and pop the bread in, and usually that was somewhere around 700 or 800 degrees. It seemed to get a great finish, and this one particular baker was talking about the reason high temperature works for baking is you create more of what's called oven spring, or the ability of the bread to rise and expand to its full potential before the crust sets. Once the crust begins to set, that's the end of the expansion mode of the bread. And it tends to create more of the pockets inside of the bread to capture butter and things of that. Typical of kind of like a ciabatta when you're baking a ciabatta. So I started doing it. I was very pleased with the results. I have a Fisher Paykel oven that'll go up to 800 degrees here. And I thought, oh man, this stuff is just gonna flame out. But it turned out to be great. The trick is to bake it for the first 10 minutes at very high heat, 800 degrees. It makes those yeast just explode in there, create a lot of oven spring. And I found that it sort of slows down the formation of that crust because it's happening so rapidly. The crust doesn't really have time to form. But there's another key to it also. The key is most home bakers do not have moisture in their ovens. They don't have steam injected ovens, neither do I. So another way to slow down the setting of the crust is to introduce moisture into your oven. And I have, it's a little steamy in there, I've put a skillet in there to come up to temperature. And when I go to place the bread, yes, it's been through the mill, that stone, but always use a stone. You can also sit it on the bottom of the oven and on a pan for the first 8 or 10 minutes. But what I do is take 2 cups of ice cubes and pop them in to that pan, and that creates a lot of steam. And that's another way that the crust delays setting, which allows for a bigger loaf. smoke there, and I love, listen to this crust on the outside. You really only get that with high heat, slicing through that crust. Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful. Isn't that lovely? That's what I'm talking about when it comes to baking bread. Do not be afraid to use high temperature. Hopefully today I've done enough to convince you of the virtues of baking at high temperature, at least when you're initially baking bread. I just love a good crunchy crust. A little slice to have it